name is Jared. I am your Ortovox rep. I am here to talk about snow safety equipment. I first started getting into this in about 2000. That was right when the digital revolution happened. And of course, like everybody at that time, I got the BCA tracker. You know, it was arguably the best beacon out there at the time. After that, I became a very, very avid ski mountaineer and everything, but I didn't like really keep up. Like, I just learned my equipment and it worked fine, my Beacon Shovel Pro. So then, you know, 12 years passes and I end up landing this Ortovox gig, and it's like, okay, well, I have to kind of pay attention, and every beacon's digital now and blah, blah, blah. So what's going on? Well, it turns out there's been a lot of advances on that digital theme and a lot more technology going into the beacons that really kind of separates out some of the manufacturers from others. And there's some things about Ortovox that I was happily surprised with that I get to talk about genuinely that are really unique and really set Ortovox apart when you're talking about beacons. No matter how many antennas there are in a beacon, only one antenna is sending out the signal, right? And it sends it in this apple-shaped pattern. If you're buried where it says very high visibility, you're going to be buried flat, and that apple core signal is going to be going out along the snow. Your friends are searching in that plane, right? They're holding their beacon out like this. Your beacon is transmitting like that. That's a very good, what we call coupling. That conversation, you're very, very highly visible. And those beacons are going to talk to each other really, really well. If you're buried in that second position, it's sending the beacon, the signal up and coming down. That signal is being interpreted by that Z antenna, which is really, really, really tiny. It doesn't give you very good directionality. And also, your range just goes down. You're losing all that length because that length is going up into the sky and has to come back down. So, depending on how you're buried, can make you more visible or less visible, unless you're carrying an Ortovox beacon. We have what's called smart antenna. It's got an accelerometer in it. This thing is always going to know what orientation it's in, and depending on where you settle out, if it's like this, it's going to transmit here. If it's like that, it's going to transmit from here. That is totally unique to Ortovox. Nobody else has that. So a lot of people like to say this is the selfish man's beacon, because if I'm carrying this beacon and I'm buried, no matter what beacon you guys have, I'm going to send out, I'm throwing out a better signal, arguably, than any other beacon out there. So that's smart antenna technology. The Zoom, the 3 Plus, and the S1 Plus all have that smart antenna technology. Ortovox has another really, really cool feature, and this is in all the beacons as well. It's called Auto Revert. With the accelerometers in this thing, after 90 seconds, if you stop moving, a little alarm will go off. And if you don't move this thing within 30 seconds, at 120 seconds, 2 minutes, this thing is going to say, you're caught in a second avalanche. I'm going to immediately switch back. No matter what you do, I'm going to switch back and start transmitting again. The other thing that we have is we have beacons that will handle multiple burial situations. We need a way to figure out who's who and where everybody's at. So in that situation, it's very easy for a beacon to get confused because there's multiple signals and they're overlapping and then separating and then overlapping. What we do is we have what's called reliable signal flagging. We take three things. We take the transmission pulse, we take the pulse period, which is basically from the first pulse starting to the second pulse starting, and we also take the time in between. So we're grabbing onto every single signal that's coming in, and we're measuring all three of those times. And there will never, if these two beacons, if I had two of the exact same beacons and they rolled off the factory floor one right after the next, all three numbers will never exactly be the same. There's just milliseconds of tolerance between electronics that you will never get that exact same pulse. And what it does is it, with a surety, after just a couple of pulses, it says, okay, you're you, you're you. I can tell the difference between signals. It happens very, very quickly. And you're out here with this strength and you're out here with this strength. So it really helps you manage reliably when you have multiple burial situations. One of the things that is a standard regulated, you have to transmit for at least 100 hours and you have to be able to receive for at least 10 hours on whatever battery system you're going to put in there. With Ortovox, we manage that, we achieve that standard with fewer batteries. So we've got a really good power management system. Generally, in most beacons, you're going to have 2 AA's or 3 AAA's. In Ortovox beacons, you're going to have 1 AA or 2 AAA's. So in some cases, it's half as many batteries to achieve that same transmission and receiving standard. So over time, the beacon's going to be cheaper, greener, less waste, you know, all that stuff. Last thing I will say, overall, this year, new with Ortovox, is we are putting Reco reflectors in every single beacon. So just another added level of safety. If you don't have something on your jacket or whatever, if you're in bounds or whatever, you will have a Reco reflector in here.